Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Emmanuel. You can call me Irofmah. Welcome to Summer Hot Sessions. Today we have on the show Mr. Francis Dwumah. He is an entrepreneur and an investment banker. He is the current managing director, and also the founder of Airport View Hotel. I'm sure you've all heard of it. Airport View Hotel in Accra, which is one of the leading hotels in Ghana. I don't want to say a lot, so we just jump right to it and straight to him, tell us about himself and everything. So, Mr. Dwumah, thank you for joining us on the show. And just without further ado, just tell us about yourself, the things you've done. I've seen plenty.
Okay. So I'm Francis Dwumah. Well, I'd say, like you said, you've said everything. I'm the CEO for Airport View Hotel.
Okay.
I also run a couple of other businesses. Well, I'd say I've been in business maybe on a smaller scale since maybe my late secondary school days. I've also been a banker.
Yeah.
So I've been a professional banker since I think 1995. I've been here on the main lines banking as an investment banker. I left the banking industry in 2010.
Okay.
And currently, like I said earlier, I run Airport View Hotel. I have other companies involved in logistics, as well as import and export, and a bit of real estate and venture capital.
Okay, so first off, let's talk about the investment banking. How did you become an investment banker?
Okay, the investment banking aspect started. I started my banking career with the then merchant bank.
Okay.
Currently UMB or Investor Merchant Bank. So I joined them as a dealer. Basically a dealer, money market dealer. Basically every bank, it's there are certain things every bank is supposed to do. A treasury, has a money market bank,
Marketing.
a money market dealer in the treasury. The treasury is more or less the dev center of every bank.
Okay.
What we do in treasury is to ensure that the bank has adequate liquidity to manage itself and also balances books on a daily basis, so that at any point in time, in as much as a bank, we take deposits from people, and then we as a bank give them out as loans, invest in government paper, and we're also supposed to meet certain regulatory requirements.
Okay.
So as a money market dealer, which was my first role, you had to ensure that, okay, at any point in time, the bank has adequate liquidity to meet your normal withdrawal that you come for, as well as make sure that we also don't keep all the money that your brother or your sister deposited just sitting in our books. Because if it's just sitting in our books, we would not earn any income from it.
Yeah.
The income we get is the money that you brought in. We would have given it out as loans. And once we give it out as loans, or we buy government paper, i.e. treasury bills and the like, or we invest in other areas, it's like striking a balance between making sure that the money that you brought in, we have enough invested to earn us return, as well as making sure that there's just enough there to make sure that when you come to make your normal withdrawals, you are able to get something to meet your needs or the needs of other people. Yeah. So basically, from the money market dealer, it's our job to ensure that that adequate balance is there from the banking perspective. It's a bank-wide rule, and therefore you have to make sure that all the various branches of the bank have just enough money to enable them run, whilst at the same time we will be able to invest the rest.
Okay.
And so I was fortunate enough to join the bank from that in that role. So gradually rose through the ranks, and maybe initially one good thing I would say, every misfortune is a blessing. I mean, during my early stages,
Mm-hmm.
there was within about 5 to 6 years, I had, well, I'd say 4 bosses who were changed over maybe a 6-year period.
Mm-hmm.
So invariably, what that did was that it got to a time, maybe even though I was a junior in that department,
Yeah.
I was one of the long-serving
Junior.
people in that unit. So with time, you had to, build capacity so that even though new bosses came in, it was a situation where I had to quickly make sure that I'm able and ready to assist my bosses who were coming in, because maybe they come in, they don't know too much about that particular department.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you're in a junior role, you have a situation of quickly helping to assist them so that they are able to settle down into their position. So basically, that's how I started my banking career.
Mm-hmm.
And we also basically make sure you have enough money with the central bank.
Mm-hmm.
We also have make sure that because the central bank requires that every bank keeps a certain portion of the bank's deposits with them to prevent, assuming there's a problem, at least the central bank has a certain percentage with them, which can be helped to balance the books of the banks in terms of customer withdrawals. So that began my career into a bit of investment banking, and that is how I got into it.
And so, how did you get into the hoteliering bits?
Okay, like you said, the hoteliering thing also came in. Well, I'd say years back. I mean, what happened was that my parents had a property, which at that time it was a 5-bedroom house that they were renting out to tenants in the airport enclave. And so what happened was that at that time the tenants were not too reliable. Sometimes they would come engage the property, and then after that, maybe they either run the property a bit down or something. So I think that was just after I had started my job with the bank. I think what happened was that they were in between tenants. A tenant had left, and the property was vacant. So around that time, I had a link to the tourist board at that time. And that was when Panafest was being introduced. That was the first Panafest, which was introduced into Ghana at that time, and arrangements were being made. So, like I said, I was introduced to some executives at Tourist Board, and they said to me, "Oh, we are looking for a place." You know, Panafest was based in Cape Coast primarily, and but almost everybody was coming through the airport, and then from there they will go to Cape Coast to have the Panafest. That was the seat of the Panafest. But what they said, they were looking for a place so that when the tourists come in, they will lodge. Then from there, they will be shuttled to Cape Coast to have the Panafest proper. So they were looking like a holding village for the Panafest participants. So I spoke to them, and they said, "Oh, if within 1 week you can get your place ready as a hosting ground and be used as the Panafest village, you have a deal." So I said, "No problem." So within a week or so, I mean, mind you, this was a normal property. I had to make sure that within 1 week or so, I had furniture, beds, curtains, I mean, what have you, to just turn into a village or a lodging place. So we did that, and it was quite successful. So they came in, they occupied. Panafest was successful. The whole thing went through. We also went through it, and it was quite okay. So that was an earlier phase. Then, like I said, later on also, they were in between another. So after that, the property was still vacant. And then somebody approached them that, "Oh, we want to take your property for a long lease." I mean, it's one of these popular restaurants in Accra currently, a Chinese restaurant. they wanted to lease the property for 10 years.
Okay.
So they approached my people, my parents at that time, and said, oh, we want to take your property for 10 years and use it for a restaurant.
Yeah.
But it's for a minimum of 10 years. So I said, So, I mean, I also got to know about that discussion. I said, I've hosted this panel first. It's worked well.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to lease your property for 10 years. More or less, this is an asset that if we're able to manage it well, we should be able to get far more returns than somebody renting it as a property. Yeah. So why don't we turn it into a hotel?
Okay.
At that time, they went, well, I'll not say they were not interested. My late old man, may his soul rest in peace, was at that time or earlier on had shown interest in operating a hotel, maybe in times gone by, but had never gotten to actualizing it. So I think when I said it wasn't something out of the blue too much, but at that time the issue was that where do we get capital to turn this 5-bedroom into a hotel?
Yeah.
So I said, I mean, at that time I was with the bank. I was entitled to certain facilities as a staff of the bank.
Okay.
And I said, okay. I could access some facilities from my current job as well as other roles which are open, avenues which are open to me.
Okay.
So don't worry. For the financing, leave that to me. I'll see how we can arrange it. So basically, that's how, in a nutshell, that whole concept came by. So basically, what happened was that I leased the property for my parents. So they had a property. So as a person or as a company, so we formed Airport View Hotel Company, which was owned by myself. And then I made my parents also shareholders in that company. And as well as some other siblings of mine who were shareholders. So it was between one side of the family versus another side of the family. Okay. And basically what I did was that that time getting a home equity mortgage was pretty new in Ghana, where you could take your assets and then go for a loan. So what I did at that time was to take a loan, my loan, which maybe I should have gone to buy a house as a staff of my organization for myself. What I did was, I went to that time we had a financing partner for the bank, which was at that time Home Finance Company. Okay. So what I did was to go back to them and tell them, my parents have a property and I want to take a loan to renovate that property. Yeah. So yes, they agreed, which is like an equity release. You can take if you have an asset. At that time, together with my mom, who was, I say near retirement. You know, when you are going for loans from financial institutions, they look at your age versus your earning capacity. So together with my mom, who had an interest in that property, because she jointly owned it with my dad, the original property, we took a loan, which is an equity release loan. Me, taking out the max that I could as a staff of the merchant bank, and she taking up the little top up that she could take from her organization through the home finance. Okay, so we raised that money, and the whole idea at that time, it's a funny bit, but at that time I was thinking, the money will take, I'll use some to build a property and then maybe use some to maybe run a trotro and see whether I'll be able to get top up, because I knew the money could not finish whatever we were going to do. But then, if at least you have some to start a project, then you could use some to invest in an earning venture, and then maybe a small proceeds would be used to top up the project. But it didn't go that way. I mean, the trotro, as you know, transportation business in Ghana is not that reliable source of income. So along the way, we had to even dispose of that. But generally, that's how I started. Invariably, like I said, I mean, I had to go beyond that loan, go for private loans, some with interest as high as 10% a month, 5% a month, 8% a month, from both formal and informal means. I mean, the easiest was to go for informal means. But by the grace of God, it took about 3 years or so. And finally, we're able to open our doors to the public on the 1st of April 2002.
Since then,
Since then, it's been challenging, but well, I say it's been good. I mean, gradually, so we opened our doors with 12 rooms. Later on, I think a couple of years later, we expanded to 30 rooms. Then we expanded to 47 rooms. We expanded to 80 rooms. And currently, we're expanding to 100 rooms. Yeah, so we've tried to grow a bit of organically over the period. Yeah.
What do you want to do when you were a child?
I mean, generally, I'll not say I've, maybe I say maybe secondary school, primary school, doesn't too much of what I wanted to. But I think what in my later part of secondary school, where I grew up or where we stayed, we had a lot of bankers in our neighborhood. Yeah. And generally, I like cars a lot. And I remember a couple of bankers who were in my area, especially one particular banker, a senior banker for that matter, who was a chief executive of one of the banks at that time. When you go to his house, you see a lot of nice cars. And I'm sure that influenced my thinking I want to go into banking, because every time I would say, hey, this man, in the afternoon, you go to his house and even he has gone to work, his wife has gone to work, and look at the leftover cars in the house. And that influenced my interest in banking. And as much, even though I would say that influenced me, I was also very choosy, because I also did not want any bank or any. I wanted to work with specific banks, and so I tell people of specific places. When I finished school, I just decided that I had a short list of about 10 institutions that I wanted to work. It's either that 10 or nothing else. So I selected those 10 institutions and vigorously pursued seeing how and when I'll be able to get through. And by the grace of God, I was able to get into one of them, which was the Investor Merchant Bank, now formerly a merchant bank. Yes, that's how I was able to get through. At that time, one of the very leading banks in Ghana.
Yeah, what has been like your prime motivator throughout?
Oh, generally, I think as a person, I mean, I always say motivation should come from within and without. I mean, generally, my motivation in business and in whatever I do has been to pursue excellence. I mean, from working for somebody, I've told people, I mean, every choice that I made along the line was deliberate, and nothing happens by chance. Me, that is and I always cite myself that I remember when I was in uni, we were organizing a whole weekend. We didn't organize things well, and because we didn't organize things well, we sold whole week tickets very late, and so the tickets, I think invariably we had about 30 tickets. I ended up buying about 3 of those tickets, and we had about 10 prizes. I didn't win anything at all. So invariably I said, no, some of us, we need to really struggle. You can't just rely on luck. You have to really work for whatever you wish, you hope for. So, like I said, once I finished school, the issue was to look for a good place to work, relatively good place. And I pursued that, and by the grace of God, I was able to get it. After that, that was a quasi-governmental institution at that time. I said, okay, after that, let me work for a private person. My former boss, Dr. Dufour, he offered me an opportunity to work with them. That is at Unibank as their treasurer. I worked there. And then after some time, I said, I knew from day one that I was not going to work for somebody forever. So I worked with the government sector or institutionalized. I worked for a private businessman, and then I worked for myself. So I just wanted to have a feel of the various categories of work where you can work for, let's say, a government institution, you can work for a private business executive, and then you can work for yourself as well. But in all these aspects, wherever you go, it's important you strive to work well and maximize whatever you're doing there. So no matter where I find myself, whether it's working for somebody or working for myself, as much as I'm a human being, you try to make sure you maximize and put your best foot forward. So that is it.
And then you mentioned that you have some other businesses that you run.
Yeah, okay. So generally, a lot of the other business I run, like I said, I'm involved in private equity and venture capitalism. Basically what that does is that what that involves is, I mean, we sometimes have people coming to us. I'm establishing this. I want a bit of equity, and then together using sometimes not only the money, but the experiences and the network that we have, we join forces with that person or group of people, and then we do specific jobs, specific projects, specific investments, and we've done that quite a bit. Also, one, like I mentioned earlier, one main thing is that I've always been interested in vehicles, and so growing up, where as a young boy, we're always fidgeting with cars where possible. As I grew older, and that time in uni you could work. I mean, go outside to the UK and do kinds of odd jobs. I did that. I bought my first car when I was 20 years, and then from my own resources, that's working. So I bought that, and then once I did that, and I like to spec up my car and all those things. So with time, also people got to know Francis. He knows cars. He knows where to get the best deals and all those things. And invariably, people started coming to me. Oh, I want to buy this car. What do you think? Oh, where can you get me this car? That kind of thing. So first it was a hobby, and with time it became a business. And I tell people, I mean, the internet, for example, is a wonderful thing. I bought my first car off the internet in Florida in 1995. I would do, for example, that time the internet was just gaining a lot of roots in Ghana. And I remember I was that time going, I had 97, sorry. I was traveling to the US for a holiday during my annual vacation. So I knew I was going to go to Miami area. And I said, oh, let me search over the internet and see whether I can get a car within my official car budget that had been allocated to me. So I found something. I remember I called a guy from Ghana, and he didn't really believe that somebody from Africa or from Ghana would be calling him in US to tell him that I'm coming to buy a car. Anyway, I called him. Then I think some weeks later, I got to, I had brothers in that time in Jacksonville in Florida. So I went there, and then we all drove to Miami. And then I called the guy, my friend, where is your garage? Yeah. He couldn't believe it. I was the one who called you about 2 weeks ago that I was coming to the US. I'm here now. Give me the exact location. I'm coming to your shop. And so from 95, for example, I bought vehicles over the internet. And through that, I've established certain relationships on a commercial basis. And that, like I said, has evolved into having the automobile business aspect of things, where a hobby has become more or less a principal business. And to support that, we supplied vehicles to companies and individuals. And then they will tell you, okay, if I buy a car from you, where do you service it? And then, of course, I would then tell them, and then with time, we had to establish our own workshop to make sure we service the vehicles. And listen, I'm also a bit into construction, real estate, which is also a hobby. I like to build things, actually. And so building physical structures is also a hobby, and I've taken a bit of interest. And like I said, everything is now on the internet. I mean, I bought solar water heaters in the middle of Turkey, where a lot of them have never seen a dark-colored human being before. And I remember when I went there, sometime I saw on the internet I wanted solar heaters. I saw a good brand and the prices were competitive. And I said, okay, let me go there and get solar water heaters that I needed for a project. And it was in the middle of Turkey, central Turkey, where typical did. And I remember I got there on a Muslim holiday in December. I think it was in December or so, just early part of December. I forgot what exact. And then when I got there, because they were not working, I said, let me while away the time today in the shopping mall. So I had the taxi driver, take me to the shopping mall. And literally, I was the only black guy in the whole shopping mall. And you could see parents, children, the parents who try to hide their divided children. I mean, it would touch you, look at you, and that's the beauty of the internet. I mean, you can get anything that you want to know. You can read about what you want to know. You can get information. And if you spend time, there's nothing you can learn from it. So, I mean, that has also guided me in whatever it is that I have to learn. And so, like I said, construction is also one hobby of mine, which I've developed. And when I'm doing it, I feel it's not work to me. I mean, anything I do, I always say, when you are doing it, you should treat it as a hobby. So, invariably, everything I'm doing currently is something that when I do, I don't really feel that I'm going to work. You meeting guests, it's normal. I enjoy it. You are doing construction, you enjoy it. You are building brick, you enjoy it because it's something that flows from you naturally. So, typically, I encourage everybody, anything you want to do, make sure it's something you enjoy.
In all your journey, has there been any stressful moments, like anything that causes you stress?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, there is a lot of stressful moments. I mean, especially in the outside of the world, raising financing is a problem. But everything's it's a learning curve. And I always tell people in Ghana and in Africa and in a lot of places, if somebody doesn't put money in your pocket or you've not received the money in your pocket, you don't take decisions when you're expecting certain money or financial inflows. Until the money is actually in your pocket, that's when you can take certain decisions. And so sometimes in planning ahead, don't assume that because something has been promised you, definitely you will get it. Because when you plan 100% based on that, then you can end up with a situation where you will default on certain obligations of yours because you were expecting something to come true and it didn't come true. So you should always plan without that because people could disappoint. And so, in as much as possible, you should try to make sure that whatever decisions you are making are decisions based on certain things which are within 100% your control. I know as a human being, everything cannot be in your control. But as much as possible, you try to make sure that whatever you're doing, decisions you are taking, that certain decisions are within your control to reduce the, on your side, misinforming people or you also transferring your problems to others. Because I tell people in Ghana and in anywhere, your reputation is very important. And if you are able to build up your reputation well, then you can survive, especially in outside of the world where access to capital is a problem. I mean, if maybe formal capital is not available, but you have a friend who trusts you or somebody who knows that if Francis, he takes your 100 cedis and he says he'll give it to you next week. Most probably next week he'll give you your 100 cedis. That friend is most likely to trust you and give you that 100 cedis. If you're able to build that reputation, then you'll be able to survive. Because it's not all the time that you can go to a bank and want money. Even if the bank, even with time, it will get to a situation where they would want to believe your reputation more than just paperwork that you want to show them that this project I'm doing is viable or this thing is viable. So people are doing a lot of viable things, but he gets money and he doesn't want to pay his debt. So making sure that you fulfill your obligations are very key in whatever you do. And I mean, I always say that when I was younger, for example, when we started working, I mean, there was one venture, for example, I think within the first year of starting work where me and a friend of mine entered into a joint venture business, and we had an agreement, but because he was my friend, we didn't really look at the agreement properly. Invariably, along the line, there was another issue, and then he wanted now to go back to that original agreement that we had. And I saw that no, that agreement wasn't written well, and I was not benefiting. But it was too late because we had written the agreement. And when I wrote that, we got someone to write the agreement, we were friends. And because we were friends, we didn't look at the nitty-gritty of the agreement to see whether this makes sense, this is workable. And so along the way, when the friendship had a problem and he says, now let's go straight according to the agreement, you realize that, no, now you were disadvantaged, then became a problem. So I always advise people, even though somebody is your friend, somebody is your relative, anytime you want to do something, you should ensure that paperwork is, if there's any need for paperwork, it is properly done. You can have it in the background, but the proper thing should be done.
What's the best lesson you've learned so far?
Oh, the best lessons, like you said, one, like I mentioned a few minutes earlier, reputation is very important. Reputation is very important because in Ghana, anywhere else, people know each other. I might not know you directly, but definitely there will be a link that will be mutual to the two of us if we want to go around it. And word travels a lot. So if you are able to build your reputation as a good person, as a person who goes by his word, then it makes things a lot easier for all of us. It makes easier things for you. It makes it easier for everybody. And invariably, people tend to trust you. And once people tend to trust you, it opens gates for you in the sense that even if somebody wants to do some business with you and he goes to seek the opinion of somebody else, somebody will say, go for it. And so it has helped me in the sense that in as much as we are human beings and we are prone to error and things sometimes are beyond our, our capacity, or the Lord is there, He knows everything. But as much as the Lord has given us our brains and wisdom, it's important that we work within that in our own capacity to make sure that whatever we put out there, whatever we discuss with somebody that we will do, we ensure that what is humanly possible, we do it.
So you are someone who has hired many people over your career. What's due for when hiring that person?
When hiring somebody, I think, and no, I don't think it speaks for only me, for example, or for a lot of people, trustworthiness. Trustworthiness is key. I mean, I always tell people, you can have the most beautiful of qualifications, the highest of degrees, all the paperwork that needs to be. But if you are not truthful and you are not trustworthy, there will be a problem. And generally, it's also one problem which is lacking in our side of the world, where people have qualifications, somebody comes into a business, somebody is working with you and wants to play the easiest way to just get out. He wants the nicest car. The next day after working, he comes, he sees his boss car. Oh, me too, I want the same thing. Or he sees a house, he wants the same thing the next day. And so instead of taking his time to just, the little opportunity he has where trust has been bestowed upon him, he has a position of influence, or he's able to take certain things. He wants to quickly make a quick buck. And therefore, it is increasingly difficult, especially in Ghana, to rely a lot on sometimes some of your employees because you don't know what exactly the person's up to. And I know it's not only for me, but for a lot of businessmen, and if you ask around, it's a big challenge. I mean, within the last couple of weeks, and across, it's not even from a lot of businesses. I mean, you have situations where people have taxis. Last week, for example, I was speaking to a colleague of mine, former colleague, and he says, oh, the last I knew, he was running this work and pay taxi business, and he had a fleet of taxis. And so I saw him and said, oh, how's your taxi business going? And so That thing has almost crippled him. He stopped. I said, why? He says the people will come to him. They're hungry for business. They are this thing. They want to work. You buy the taxi for him. He starts operating. He gets some income to his pocket. The most moment he either abandons your taxi somewhere, he reports that it's stolen, he crashes it and runs away, and all kinds of things. So, and even this transport, I know somebody who also has a lady banker who bought some cadets for people to ride for her, and about 2 of them have been stolen. So these same people will come to you for help. And once they're able to just go above their little and they have something to stand on, the next moment they forget that you were the one who put them out of their misery. And that is a big challenge in Ghana. So across all sectors, I mean, even in the more formal employment areas, people go, they work with people, they work with companies, they work with banks, and they want to cut their own private deals, put their own margins on top, and then as much as possible want to profit for themselves in as quick as possible manner. But that is a big problem in Ghana, and that affects. So in hiring somebody, the integrity aspect is very, very key. And it's one thing that I think is something that we all have to talk about because it's becoming a challenge in Ghana. Yeah.
What is your biggest accomplishment in this?
I'll not say I have any big accomplishment. I mean, generally, we thank the Almighty for, blessing us and continue to bless us. I was telling my son who is going to school today that you just don't go to school and if you beat your classmates in your classroom and you think that you're a hero. I mean, it's neither here nor there. If you beat the people in your classroom, that's fine. But if you finish beating your people in your classroom in terms of academic work, you go to your village and see whether you can beat them academically in your classroom, and go beyond that. Go to your the country, represent your country as the sharpest person there. If you beat beyond country, you can go to the continent and beat. If not, that people like Bezos from Amazon and Bill Gates and the rest would have all stopped working. But they are working actively. And the reason is that there's nothing like you have hit it or you have made it. It's a continuous process. Once God has given you strength and He has given you life, you continue to work and you continue to help and achieve more for yourself and your family, as well as the whole country as a whole. If in my role as a business executive, I mean, one joy is ensuring that you provide employment, for example, and people are able to mature under your care. People are able to accomplish a lot as a human being, fulfill their basic needs, start families, own the basic necessity of life. So if you are able to expand that and get in more people who are able to expand their horizons and mature under you, that makes me happy. And that is what I maybe will call an accomplishment. Yeah.
And last one question. What's your favorite book?
Book? I'll not say I have any favorite book. What I have is my favorite reading aspect or topic is that I like to read about successful people. So it could be online, it could be in a book, it could be anywhere. It could be local, it could be international. I like to read how people are pursuing excellence in wherever field that they are. And so any opportunity which provides me with a way of learning about X or Y or whatever and how he's making it, I like to read it. So that also inspires me that, this person has gotten here. This is even an area where you can exceed and excel. Is it an area that you're interested in exceeding and excelling also? This is the path he chose. Is it possible that this path can work for you? Because like everybody has his skill sets. I tell people, even working for yourself, it's not for everybody. You can work for yourself. You can work for somebody. You can, I mean, it all depends on what your skill sets are. Even choosing the area you want to work in. I'm working in automobile because I'm interested there. I'm working hotel and construction because I'm interested there. But for example, if you told me to go into medicine, I would say it's a big no because I don't like the ambience and everything. I don't like to see people sick, for example. So if you pay me $1 billion, I'm not going to go into that area. But somebody could have that compassion, that kind of wants to treat human being and all those things. So he or she could be interested in that area. So it all depends on what you have within you. And so you have to do some soul searching within yourself to see what is an area which is conducive to you. Then, like I said a few minutes ago, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Personally, that's what I think. You could excel as a career person working somewhere, whether it's in the public space or whether it's in the private space. You can excel and be a good manager, and you could earn whatever you want to do in that. And so you should identify that, am I somebody who can take the risk? Because working for yourself involves a lot of risk, a lot of self-sacrifices, and sometimes it's a big challenge. So if you are not somebody who can take those kind of risks and sacrifices and self-absorb some of those things for some protracted time over a long time, then I do not encourage entrepreneurship for you. I would say just do your main line working for somebody, but excel. I mean, if your company decides that you should be a PhD holder to excel to the top, do your PhD, excel, and be a professional in that regard. You want to be a consultant, do it. I mean, for some company, that's it. Pursue that. Pursue to the peak of that. If on the other hand, you want to be an entrepreneur, also know the challenges go with that. Are you prepared, for example, for example, when I started a hotel, for 4 years, I had, for 5 years, at that time, going to the US was an intern. I had a 5-year multiple visa, and for 5 years, I never used my multiple visa because any money that I had was going to a project which I started, which I had not finished. And so it's two things. Either you enjoy today by going on your holiday when your project, because I started, for example, Airport View in 98, and it was in 2099 or so. It was in 2002 we opened our doors. So between that 4 or so years, the project has you need money to buy this. You've not started. Then you go on a holiday. Yes, it could be small relative to what you need. But at that time, you needed any little money that you had. So the issue is that, how do you do? Do you say that, okay, that's matter, you're a human being, you need your holiday, so you go on your holiday? So if you don't have that capacity to withhold certain things, for example, I mean, I had even my marriage, I was that time dating, and I had to put my marriage on hold for about 3 years because at that time my project had not taken up. So if, for example, I had let that pressure get to me that, oh, you had to marry, because of course marriage comes with certain responsibilities. Marriage, all things, because you might even give birth and then you have a baby. You cannot transfer those your problems to your baby. At that time, you need every single 10 cedis that you get to pump into your project, which hasn't taken off. Because mind you, once you start a project and the project is not any income, if you don't get it to a situation where it starts any income, anything you put in is just sunk cost. It isn't returning anything to you. Exactly. So all these decisions are things that as a human being you have to take yourself and realize that, oh, are these challenges that I can take, are these punches I can take for a sustained period, and on a, I mean, because any business will have its highs and lows. So if it's not only at the start, but in between along the line, you would have times that you still have to support your business one way or the other and involve certain sacrifices.
Any last words from viewers? Any last words?
Yeah, I mean, not only viewers, for all of us. Generally, I mean, as a businessman, And as anybody, honesty is important. I keep saying. I mean, I've had transactions, I've had deals where people have come to me just because they trust me. People have put money in my hands without receipts, not because of I have anything, but because they trust me. And so people would put money in your hand just because they know that you will not disappoint them. So once you are able to establish that and you continue to work with that, a lot of things can happen for all of us.